Hello and welcome. Today we'll dive into the world of pre-employment assessment of a data analyst. In this episode, we're not discussing the typical job interview questions or CV reviews. Instead, we're exploring the kinds of tests and analysis that you might be part of in the screening process of a data analyst role. So we're looking at a data set focused on healthcare activities. We'll simulate the kind of analytical challenges that one might encounter in a job application scenario. You can be sure that it is the kind of test that you might be faced with when applying for a data analyst role. So if you're curious about what the questions look like and how to tackle them, then you're in the right place. That said, let's get started. Welcome back. So we'll dive right into the data set we have to work with today. So it's a hospital admissions data set, healthcare. And one of the first things we do when we are working with a data set is we want to try to understand that data set. So if we look at data set, you can see the different data sets, the different columns and what they represent. So we've got the provider code, provider name, commission name, ethnic category, gender description, activity months, financial year, treatment specialty, cost, activity. Some are explanatory, some are not, and that's why we need to ask questions. One of the questions we would have asked is the description of some of those codes, and we have that provided in this. Don't worry, this particular data set will be provided in the description section of this video. So you can go to the description section and then click on the link to download this data set so you can follow along, so you can practice on your own. So we've got the provider code is simply the national hospital code, the name of the hospital providing the treatment, the name of clinical commissioner is the commissioner's name, the ethnic category is simply the patient's ethnicity, the gender description is patient gender, that's descriptive enough. The activity month is the month of admission. Possible we're expecting to see things like January, February, March, but of course the activity month here is actually looking like code start 2019 05 06 all the way down, and you have that. Good. And we've got the cost, the associated cost, activity count of activity. This information is very useful because you look at activity and we're not sure if activity here means the code, activity 4, activity 14, activity 1. So that information helps us to understand this is a count. So now we understand what each column is. That is the first part of any analysis. We need to understand what does the data mean. Next is we want to make sure that the data is in the right format. So for instance, cost is the currency. I'll just click on cost and I'll change it from general to currency. I can leave it as pounds. 2 decimal places, that's fine. Activity, I can leave it as, because I know it's a count, I can leave it as numbers. But there are 2 decimal places. I don't need those 2 decimal places. I can take it out by using this tab called decreasing decimals. 1, 2, out. If I wanted to increase the decimal places, I'll use this other tab 1, 2, and it goes on. And I can increase decimal places, but I don't want that out. Then our gender, male, female is fine. We have blanks. Yes, we do. We have some that are not specified, but that's fine because you see, in analysis, we need to identify what is our unique identifier. And in this case, the provider code is a unique identifier, and we don't have blanks unique identifier. So every provider has a name. So on to question 1. Let's highlight a few interesting points here. What is the total cost? What is the total cost incurred by the Eastwood Women and Children Foundation Trust for emergency medicine in activity month 201904? So what is the total cost incurred? If I go to my data set, and one very good practice is to preserve your master data. So in this case, this is my master data. To preserve it, I'll just create a duplicate by right-clicking here, then move to the end, create a copy, and I'll say OK. I've created a copy and I can call this Q1, question 1. And I am looking at the total cost incurred by Eastwood Women and Children Foundation Trust for emergency medicine activity month this. So Eastwood Women and Children Trust. One very good practice again is to, before you start filtering, ascending or descending order, sort. I'll sort in ascending order, and the reason is because down the line you might want to copy certain sections. If it hasn't been arranged in either ascending or descending order, there will be spaces in between. We'll see that as we go along. We're looking at Eastwood Women and Children, and we're looking at emergency medicine. I'll sort that as well. I'll take out emergency medicine. And I believe it was said Eastwood Emergency Medicine Activity Month 2019-04. So 2019-04. I'll sort that as well. Let's keep it clean and easy. 2019-04. Enter. Now this is everything we are looking at, and we just did that using the filters. So I'll take all my costs just by highlighting everything, and I can use an Excel formula. And remember that Excel formulas, they begin with equal to, so I can just say equal to sum. I'll take from the start, which is I214, all the way down to the last one, which is I243, close bracket and hit enter. So that is the sum of everything. I did that using an Excel formula. I could decide I don't type any formulas. I'll select everything, and down here in the status bar, it has given me the sum. And just by double clicking, that value is saved into the clipboard. Now when I come back to my summary page, I can just hit Ctrl V or Command V and it pastes the information. Don't worry, like I said earlier, this data set, I'll provide a link to where you can download it in the description below. Just follow through till the end. Question 2. How does the cost distribution vary across? Let's take out some key points there. We're looking at the cost distribution, and we're looking at how it varies across different ethnic categories. And we're looking at that for emergency medicine. I'm looking at that in the activity month 201906. Yes, 01906. So we have that. So we know what we're after. So just like before, preserve our master data, duplicate this, move it to the end, say OK, call this question. Do double click and Q2. For this information, because we are looking at the cost distribution, and we're looking at how it varies across ethnic categories, emergency medicine, and that activity month, we'll use a pivot table. We'll add this to a table, but for now, we'll just select the section that we want to work with. Now I've selected, and you can use Ctrl Shift and the down arrow button to highlight everything. Go to Insert, and then Pivot Table. Now I've selected the range. I can say I want it to happen in an existing worksheet. Just keep it simple. I would keep it in this same worksheet, and I would select a cell within this current worksheet where the pivot table will be created. So I'll click here, say OK. My pivot table will be created here. A pivot table is created there. And so we have this pivot table, and we're looking at the cost distribution. So we're looking at cost distribution across various ethnic categories. So ethnic category comes into the role, costs comes into the values, and we're looking at, let's look at the question again. Cost distribution, ethnic categories for emergency medicine in this activity month. So I will put the treatment specialty in filters and the activity month in filters as well, so that when I look at the pivot table that has been created, in the pivot table that has been created, I can say, okay, the treatment category I want is just emergency. Was that emergency medicine? We can always go back to questions. All them. Emergency medicine, yes. And the activity month is 201906. So we've got the activity month as 201906, like that. So this is the cost distribution. Just to keep it neat, I can just right click here, sort largest to smallest or smallest to largest down. And just to make it a little more visual, because when you're looking at varying data, you might want to make it more visual. So let's use probably a trend line or a stacked line. So I'll select the values I want, insert, and then here I could just pick. Probably I'll just pick either a line or a stacked line. Let's use a line with markers. The reason is so that generally you can just see the markers and then you choose it. You can move your chart around just by clicking and dragging. Move your chart around. You can increase the size of the chart by picking one of the nodes and then expanding it. You can move it around. And just to allow for a better understanding of what you are doing, we can label it appropriately. So rather than total, we can say cost distribution across ethnic categories. Well, our horizontal and our vertical axis, our X and Y axis, we should label them as well, because just to avoid any misunderstanding of what we are doing. So if we go to designs, from design, go to add chart element, and then the axis title. So our primary horizontal, our x-axis, and that we can label as ethnic categories. Ethnic categories. And our y-axis, still on designs, go to our y-axis, which is our primary vertical, as our cost. Yes? Cost. Enter. So this is our cost. And off to question number 3. So which treatment specialty has we're looking at question number 3, we're looking at treatment specialty that has the highest average cost. So we're looking at the average cost. We're looking for 2020. Just like before, we will create a copy, move to the end, create a copy. Remember to create a copy. And I'll call this Q3. And a pivot table sounds appropriate for this, because we're looking at this treatment specialty with the highest average cost. in 2020. So come back to question 3. Select from A to J. Shift Control arrow key down. Go to Insert Pivot Table. And in the last question, we actually created a pivot table in an existing worksheet just to explain what this new worksheet will look like. I will select New Worksheet and say OK. So the pivot table has been created in this new worksheet. And then, of course, you can move your tabs across just by clicking and dragging forward or back. I can double click this and say Q3A. Now the pivot we're looking at, look at the question again. It says treatment specialty with the highest average cost in 2020. So I'm looking at treatment specialty. Then I'm looking at cost. And then I'm also looking at the financial year 2020. The financial year 2020. And then I'm not looking at the sum. This time around, I'm looking at average cost. I can change this from sum to average either by double clicking here, click on average, or by right clicking in the values here and say field setting and then say average. So these are my average cost. But of course, my average cost has so many decimal places, it doesn't look too neat. I select everything here and basically say go home and use our decreasing decimal to decimal place end. So the question again is which treatment specialty has the highest average cost in 2020? So I've looked at 2020, I'm looking at the treatment specialties so I can see it clearly. Let's sort highest to lowest. Just right click, sort highest to lowest. I can see it's Patrick. Copy. If I come here, I can just paste as the highest cost. Number 4. What is the total number of activities conducted by gender? So we're looking at the total number of activities, that's the sum, conducted by gender for pediatrics in 2020. Good to take note of the key information you're looking for there. So like before, I'll preserve my master data, create a new spreadsheet. Move, say OK, and I can call this Q4. I'm creating this new sheet to help us like have some kind of paper trail to how we go our answers. So we're looking again at total number of activities conducted by gender for pediatrics in 2020. So pivot table, the rescue. Pick this up, A to J, shift control down, insert pivot table, and I'll just do it in the same sheet. Just keep it in full. And I will drop it somewhere here. So drop it to pivot table there and say OK. Now our pivot table is there. We're looking for the total activities conducted by gender, pediatrics 2020. So I'm going to get my gender, and then I'm going to get the sum of activities. And I need pediatrics, and I need it to be in 2020. Is that correct? So we're looking at pediatrics 2020 gender total number of activities. Before, come back here. And then if we look at that, by saying specialty is pediatrics, pediatrics in the year 2020, and this is our box on our activity. Get it? Please don't forget, if we have any questions as regards, if you'd like me to expatiate on some of these steps, some of the tools I'm making use of here, you just leave that request in the comments. You can talk about it in details in another video. This particular video is just a run through of how to solve a typical data analyst test. We'll stop here and continue the other questions in the second part of this video.
And there you have it. This is the kind of technical interview you can expect to be faced with when applying for a data analyst role. Feel free to go over this and any of the other videos in this series. And if you would like us to cover any concept that has been discussed, kindly leave a comment below. If you found this content useful, consider subscribing if you haven't, so you can get notified when new videos drop. You should also consider liking and sharing this video. Thanks for stopping by, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.